Come on, go lay down.
Sorry about the Photoshop jokes.
The Photoshop jokes?
Yeah, I figured my crappy Photoshop skills would be funny in the NFG community.
Oh, I haven't even been paying attention.
Yeah. So Clint asked for a photo of him speaking at the conference, so I put his head on your body.
No, that's funny.
Looks like a South Park scene.
Yeah, a little T-Rex looking dude.
Oh, that's funny. I haven't even seen it at all. It's too funny.
All right, Ted, we are live.
Oh, nice. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of SEO Fight Club. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, actually. I'm getting a lot done. Started implementing stuff from the conference, particularly the VIP day stuff. So it's good.
Nice. Yeah, the conference was a lot of fun. It's kind of funny. You think, I don't know how many times I wish I just attended a conference. When you're speaking, it takes a lot out of you to be on there, to prep, to get ready to do it. And then you have that like adrenaline dump at the end, where it's like, you're like, oh, I feel great, I'm done. And they're just like, oh. Like that first day I crashed, like after my, that I spoke first day. And then that night I couldn't go out. I was just done.
Yeah. It can take a lot out of you. I want to thank Dory and Mike and JP and Brad and everyone who helped with the conference and everyone who came out there to hang out and talk with us. And, it was really a great experience. So I hope everyone that went there got the value they were looking for. I definitely think Clint's nugget drop was the drop of the show. I mean, you could build $1 million business off of what Clint shared. And that was huge.
Are we allowed to say what that was, or is that the show only?
No, we this particular conference, you sign papers saying you will not spill the beans on what you see. They are selling videos if you weren't able to attend, so you might hit up JP if you're still interested in that. But yeah, Clint's share was just off the wall. I'm sure Clint made industry enemies by sharing that trick. So
that's all I need, more people hating on me.
yeah, we'll have to put you in SEO protection programs so that people don't come after you. Who do you other than your presentation, Kyle, who do you think dropped the biggest nugget in the show?
Well, actually, so I don't take notes. I don't know if people know that about me, because I hate writing and I can't read my own handwriting. But I did write one thing down, and it was from your talk on how unique a different domain needs to be in terms of store offerings. I had never heard that before. And so that was the one thing that I wrote down from the whole conference. I don't know if you want to share that.
Oh, nice. Let's see. People want to talk more about the nugget. Well, I can't reveal the details, so maybe we'll get JP or Dory or something to come mention how they can get the video if they weren't able to attend. But next time, you got to go to that conference, man. It's an awesome conference.
Something I thought that was interesting is there were several talks about sales this year. And how to do different forms of sale. There are 2 specific talks and then kind of a shorty talk on how to like sell an audit, which I thought was pretty valuable. You don't get that at a lot of SEO conferences or digital marketing conferences, where how to like run your own business, how to increase your own sales. It's something that you don't hear a lot about at these places. And I really enjoyed kind of listening. I don't do sales very well at all. So it was kind of nice to hear. And I had my team with me. So I was like, here, you listen, this is your job. But some of that valuable information on just how other people are selling their services and how to attract clients or kind of different techniques, I thought was really valuable.
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I think I got the most out of Corey's presentation. Corey Rose, he yells in the microphone.
He came out like this was an MLM, and he'd bumped a few lines of Coke in the back, but he was ready to go.
Yeah, that was the best presentation by far. I've seen another one where he he was with Semantic Mastering, and he shared a video of him closing a call and how he walks through that process. And we actually, I gave that to the sales guys at ORTT. I was like, "This is how you sell."
Yeah.
It's really good. By the way, I dropped the link to the recording. Dory's been emailing that out, so I dropped that out in the chat box in case you guys want it.
Yeah. So the link to the videos is in chat, and I know some other groups comment on how we never show SEO proof. Well, at this show, we drop some serious SEO proof, and it's not in the form of redacted charts that go upwards and to the right. So, if you were there, you got to see it. You could attest to its existence and its significance. And I was really impressed by Kyle's repeated proof of his past work. I thought that was amazing that you kept doing it in other places and other countries. That was huge.
And I can't talk about it because I'm going to share this. I know if I give this the site out right now, but if you recall the very first one that I did that was location specific, I think it's on page 1 now.
Oh, nice.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's on page 1. And it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah. So all of the detractors who say it couldn't still work now after all the updates.
Yeah, the concepts still work.
Yeah. The algorithm is just an algorithm.
That's right.
So what's our topic today, guys?
Today's the AMA, right? Because we're lazy.
Yeah, I think so. Should we get started or should we keep water cooler?
Okay, let's get going. All right. I've got the questions.
Okay.
So this first one, it's the idea of let's say you've got a site about vegetables and you've got tomatoes and radishes and carrots as your 3 product offerings. Is it better to have a site like that has 3 broad but related categories and then they each have their own individual silos? Or would you think it's better to have 3 independent sites? A site that is just about tomatoes, a site that's just about radishes, or a site that's just about carrots? Any thoughts on that philosophy or any kind of theoretical thought on that?
Well, I've seen the cluster of sites approach work very well. So, for example, if you have a store that sells high-end poker tables, having a website about poker games, having a website about man caves, having those types of synergistic sites cross-linking is often a very easy way to get good rankings. So I believe in that philosophy. I don't think you have to do it that way, but the cool part about doing it that way is you get multiple marketing assets. Your man cave blog can promote your products in the posts. It can you can advertise on them. You can do your disclosure statements in the footer. This website also owns and operates these other websites. You get lots of valid, white hat ways of cross-linking.
I think a part of this question comes down to your ability to maintain multiple websites. If you're doing 3 websites, even if they're smaller sites, they're still it's still building out a website and it's still maintaining that website. And so it's not necessarily, it's not taking one thing and dividing it 3 and making it 3 smaller things. You're actually doing 3 almost the same kind of things. So if you're going to make that type of decision to go that route to have the multiple sites, you have to realize it's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Which might make it cost prohibitive to do so, because if you've got 3 sites, you got 3 times the cost. And a lot of cost is fixed cost. You think about your server and development and maintenance and that kind of stuff. You're actually 3xing the cost. You're not making any cheaper. So you'd actually probably have to sell more to make that happen. So you need to justify the return on doing 3 separate sites rather than just 1 site.
Well, you could do it in a template. So let's say you're doing affiliate stuff, and this is the old Google Sniper model. I don't know if you guys remember that, but you created like a little mini site about one product. Amazon Kindle is an example. It's 1 pager. It's got some contact us and all the madness, and then the notice saying that you're an affiliate, but it's just that one little page site for that one specific product. So you could do that with templates and you reduce your workload for sure and hit a lot of things. I think you'd have better overall site traffic versus depending on one keyword product. You know what I mean? So if you have multiple products on the same site, you're going to be building more links, thus increasing the overall power of the website, and you can leverage internal links and all that stuff. But if you do single products websites or one page websites, you kind of limit yourself. And the traffic you get is just the traffic you get. You're not going to really be able to expand much more.
Next question. Let's say a local business is on page 1 and it's ranking for its term and similar terms, and it is the highest ranking local site, and the only thing above it are directories. So you got your Yelps, your whatevers, and then they're the very first one. Is it possible to beat those directories? And 2, any tips on how you might go about doing that, or kind of things to try or things to go after?
Yeah, in general, when you dominate page 1, it is possible to beat them. But there's also the strategy of, if you can't beat them, join them. Make sure it's your listing in those directories that's showing up. And so you can get clever with your keyword tuning in your directory listings to be that listing. In the conference, the evidence I showed, I often beat eBay and Etsy and Amazon and Walmart and Overstock with my product pages. And in the cases where I couldn't, we employed that strategy of get into Fulfilled by Amazon and take over the listing that Amazon is showing for the keyword. So it's still our product being shown. The other things you can consider is the shopping feed for Google Merchant Center. That's another way to take part of the page. Your pay-per-click ads is another way to take part of the page. Your social, so your Pinterest and Facebook pages allow you to take yet another part of the page. And then your image SEO for the image search results, that's another way to take yet another part of the page. And so you can actually claim a lot of page 1 all for yourself if you're clever about it.
I think something else to consider too, and it was in this question, but I didn't read it, is that when you've got that one page, you can SEO that page and you can do things to that page, whereas the directories are not doing that necessarily. They've got their kind of one-size-fits-all template that they're putting out for that particular topic. So you can get a little more granular. You can build silos, relevancy, and point it directly to that page. You can build links to that page when those directories are not going to do that. So it does give you the opportunity to do regular SEO type stuff and not necessarily worry about what they're doing, because if you can build out those things that do tend to work, I think you have an edge, because you are actually SEOing one particular page where those sites cannot do that at all. They can't go and worry about that one page.
For me, I see that as an opportunity.
And the other thing is,
No.
I was going to say, you have to compete in different ways, because oftentimes those directory websites will have dozens of phone numbers, dozens of entities, and you're probably not going to compete by adding 36 phone numbers to your law firm website. So you got to compete in other factors. So you got to look at your trust signals. You got to look at your off page a lot more. You still want to consider your relevancy and on page.
And Clinton, you were going to say something?
I said, for me, I see that more as an opportunity to optimize for click-through rate, and based off of, if you look at the buying cycle for people now, and there was a CTR study showing that local click-through is actually transitioning to page 2 because Google's prioritizing Home Advisors, Angie's List, and all that, and then users just don't want to use it. Like, I don't know if you guys ever tried using one of those services, but I've never successfully hired someone off of one of them. And my guess is my user experience is the same as most others. So that's where I would look for click-through rate and see about the best way to grab their attention, and that CTR by itself should naturally push that site up on top of all the other stuff that you guys are talking about.
This next question, Ted, kind of goes into what you actually just mentioned. Way to lob the softball on that one. Trust factors. In particular, this person's interested in the medical and health niche, but can you speak on what trust factors might be? What do you mean when you say those?
All right, so this is an area of SEO where there's very little scientific research, but more and more there are experiments in this arena. Some of the things that we theorize might be trust signals to Google would be things like contact info, hours of operation, address, contact forms, privacy policies, terms of service, HTTPS, things like that. And then like known entities, so recognized names of lawyers, recognized names of medical professionals, proper citations, things like that. And then even all the way down to proper use of copyright symbols and trademark symbols. So if you're selling Kong products, that you're properly denoting the Kong trademark on your website. Even things like that may be trust signals, because going to the effort to properly do all of that is kind of, showing that you're trying to be in compliance.
I think the thing that I talk about with this, and where my thought process is that Google can't walk to your business. It can't show up at the office, shake some hands and say like, oh, this is a real thing. It has to look at other signals that indicate that you're a real business, and there are things that real businesses do. They put contact information. They have more than one email address, because it's unlikely that a business only has one department. There's probably like, what if somebody needs support? What if somebody just has a general inquiry question? What if somebody has some sort of specific problem to your product? Those are probably different departments. You probably need a local number, because most people don't use an 800 number when for their corporate office. There's a corporate office that actually has a real number. So in addition to an 800 number, you'd have a real number. What I think about, and I think that the way to keep yourself out of trouble is just, what would a real company do? And that's what you should be doing, because you really should be a real company. Even if you're an affiliate site, you should be an actual company that has something going on. You have a physical presence. If you're not an actual company, like you've never registered in the state, well, then that's actually maybe a bigger problem. And I think that's what Google is really looking for in these situations. So whatever a real company would do, go out and do it, and actually make yourself real. I would avoid hiding. And I've heard the complaints a billion times, like, oh, but I work from home. Well, a lot of people work from home, and they figure out how to get a real address that can be for their company. They can have a corporate office. They can have, and not just a mailbox express kind of thing, but an actual business location is very doable. So that's what my advice would be: is I don't overthink it. Just be a real thing. And if you're a real thing, then you're fine. And make sure that you can show people that you're a real thing.
And we know that Google is hearing trust verification for local. So when you have a Google My Business, it's very probable that Google is going to call up your business. An actual human being is going to call up your business via that phone number you list and ask, hey, is this a real company?
Yeah.
I've seen that happen to people once or twice a year already.
A lot of people complain that from time to time they have to show like pictures of their business, like the outside with a name on it.
Yep.
Just be real. Clint, do you still use mass link building software like XRummer?
Yep, we sure do.
What is your opinion of these sorts of things?
Well, I still use them, so they still work. You just have to.
I use them, but they're crap.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think I'm harming my clients.
Yeah. There's just a learning curve. You got to figure out how to use them right. XRumor in particular doesn't have any English documentation, so it's a lot of testing. So I wouldn't do it to my money site unless you're really adventurous, but it's certainly worthwhile to look at and leverage.
Yeah, if you don't know what XRumor is, it is this crazy software built in Russia, I believe. I own a license, and this software scares the hell out of me. It can create accounts on forums, log into forums. It can solve CAPTCHAs, and it can create posts. And so, if you need, 500,000 really spammy links, XRumor is your tool. But it's so scary. I would never run the software on, my own primary work computer. When I ran it, I always put it on an isolated computer, walled it off, and when it wasn't in operation, I powered that thing down and disconnected the cables, because it's the kind of software that gives you a very dirty feeling. But does it work? Yeah, it works, and you can do a lot of damage with it. Most of the time when people use the shared lists for how to get backlinks, that's where they incur the harm. If you cultivate your own lists that aren't the shared lists, then you're probably going to do much better with a tool like that.
This next question, what do you consider the best way to build and structure a multi-location business website that has 50 plus locations? So not just like here and there, but basically maybe they've got a location in every state. Clint, you gave in, I think it's episode 19 on link structures, talked about kind of a structure for a local business. Do you think that would still be valid for more? I think that example maybe had 10 locations or so. Do you think that would still be valid if it was 50?
Yeah, I would just divide it up by state, so you a little less management wise and your silo stuff to worry about. But yeah, that's how I build most of our sites and we're hitting like multiple cities, like a lot. So I think the last list of one of our sites is 3,000 cities. So, and there's a location page for each of the cities. So
okay. So yeah, to the person that wrote that question, Clint shared how he sets up multi-location sites like that, and I think it is episode 19. It's called like link structures. So I recommend checking that out and then just expanding it out.
And you can always look at, a handful of businesses that are like yours, relatively the same size, that already do it well, and go and look at what they do and kind of gauge what they all have in common, because those are probably your priority items.
A good example would be Freedom Boat Club. Look those guys up. They do a good job.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned them as an example. I have a few example sites that I always kind of lean on for certain things when I'm trying to get an inspiration in. And it comes back to, don't reinvent the wheel. Somebody else has actually already done this. Go find it and then have some examples of it and then mold that to your situation. Ted, do you think more pages on a website give it more authority?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I believe that absolutely works. You have a huge website. The problem is it's really hard to get gigantic websites indexed and to get those pages to stay in the index. But if you can do it slowly over time, where you get all that content in there, those big websites just have a real easy time ranking, and they can throw a lot of weight around. I wholeheartedly believe in that.
I don't necessarily think that it's like the site has more authority, but I think you're talking about individual pages all having their own authority, adding to a sum total.
Yeah.
I think it's the individual page's authority, and so as a result, as one boat rises, the other boats rise because they're now passing authority across to each other. So the more pages that you have that are ranking or indexed and ranked and then passing juice, they're passing juice to each other through those internal links, that it'll only cause that site to rise.
Yeah. But having 50,000 pages gives you a lot more to work with than having a one-page site.
Your net is so much wider.
Yeah.
A client I worked with years and years ago about how they just had a one-page site, and I was like, well, you actually have 10 sections on this site. How about we turn that into 10 pages? And lo and behold, clicks all of a sudden start to go up. Hey, Clint, here's one for you. What do you think about performing SEO services in exchange for equity?
Well, you just got to be willing to make that initial investment. So, like when I worked with Freedom Boat Club under Digital Leader, we did a barter, and that works okay as long as you can, cover the costs for all that stuff. So,
yeah.
We're kind of doing that partnership model OTT now. The first 9 months we work with you, rank the site, make sure you can handle the business, and then after that 9 months, it's in our contract. We have the option to partner with you as business partners. So it works. You just got to be able to be willing to make that investment in the time and money.
That's a cool concept. That's like commissions plus. So if you own 30%, you ought to get 30% of the profits. And then you also have 30% of the equity. So if you ever wanted to sell it, you have a thing you can sell. That's a cool idea.
And you're right. And that shows the business owner you are invested. It's not like they're hiring just some guy, you're actually invested in their business. So. And you want them to succeed. You want them to grow. So.
You have to do a fair amount of due diligence, though, to figure out wherever that baseline is. Like, especially if it's going to be built on growth. Yeah, I can see that as a model. Like, okay, well, we're making this much now without you. If you make this much more, then you can get this percentage. I can see that because I would see a lot of business owners balking immediately at like, we're just coming in taking 5%. And it doesn't matter if we grow anything or not.
Well, yeah.
That's where that 9 months comes in. Yeah, that's that period we get to show them that we know what the hell we're doing and we can help them make more money.
Yeah. And if you know your stuff, I mean, the way you counter that is you say, well, sure, but I want a larger percentage of all new money. Then you make it an even sweeter pot.
You also have to think like, what would it cost to hire a full-time in-house marketer, that's just going to do it? And then the thing you talk about is like, so there's that cost, and you can look at that as a percentage of revenue and say, you're not only getting just that one person who would still need a team or the whole team. So you're getting the whole thing for that same cost. Mm-hmm. So you could figure out whatever that percentage cost of, and then add a little bit to it as maybe a fair number.
But don't do this if you're not awesome at SEO.
Yeah, I wouldn't do this out of the gate.
If you get in there and flounder, you're gonna put in a whole lot of time.
Do SEO for $1,000 a month for a while.
They will let you know
quickly. You're like, but I heard it on SEO Fight Club. Assuming all other factors are equal, which would have more power, external links or internal links? So I guess the idea is, let's say you've got a site, pick your metric. It's a domain 20, DA 20 or a CF 20, or it doesn't matter what it is. Would that link and an external link of a site of the same power, would it be the same?
They're not. I mean, PageRank basically defines that all links are not equal. So,
which has more power then?
That's a good question. Like that's a good test right there.
Whichever one has more recognized backlinks.
Yeah. Well, let's pretend in a fantasy
backlinks, theoretical, not all backlinks are equal.
Let's say that they somehow magically have the exact same thing. You know what I mean? That's the idea. So we've got a page on your site, a page on another site. What would carry more weight? And pretending that they're exactly the same. Would there be any difference?
The patent math says there's no difference, but we don't actually know the mind of Google. So Google might say that internal links count 30% less. We just don't know. And I don't think there's been a compelling test to that regard.
Well, I did test this a few years ago, and I found that an internal link of the same value is worth, it takes about 2 to 3. It seems to match an external.
2 to 3, yeah. I was going to reference that test and say you kind of did that.
Yeah, but it was a long time ago. And
yeah, if it's backlink for backlink, the same metrics, exactly everything.
Which is super hard to do, but you can kind of do it in a test environment because you can take sites that are brand new. Yeah. So the idea is that their base is nothing.
If we go with the hypothetical, the obvious winner is the internal link. So if they were both equal, if we found that to be true, the winner's the internal link because you control it and you can mass produce it.
I would think that the winner would be the external because that's a third-party vote of your content.
That's probably the reality. But based on the hypothetical question they posed, if they were both equal, then the winner's the internal because you control it and can make them.
I still say external.
No, I think you're right. The reality
that's fine. External.
I say hypothetical or not. I would think that the external would win because it's a third party vote. So
well, yeah, that's the reality of this situation.
This question comes up every time we do an AMA. So maybe we should just post this somewhere. National campaign, so national US company, Should I build a GMB? Should I build several GMBs?
I say yes. I will say that there is information out there saying that if you have a GMB and it's not set up properly, you could trigger where you're only showing up in the local results. It would get localized, and thus you would be missing out on traffic. So I've seen that argument. And Jordan Pierce, he actually recommends that if you're going to do it, you make it a service area business with the entire country you're targeting as your service area, to get around that. And now you've gotten around it, and plus you've got the opportunity for the machine ID and creating the entity, which is ultimately what you want to do is what you're doing that for anyway.
Yeah. When I look at examples of national brands who are doing this, the thing that stands out to me is nearly all of them, if not all of them, designate the address that they're putting in as a corporate headquarters. And there might be something special about that designation. I don't know. I haven't tested it, but it's something that I've observed in the field.
You did test that with the tool ad, didn't you? You had a GMB and then you shut it off to see if your traffic would go up.
Yeah, there was a claim that if you have a nationwide website and you delete the GMB, that your traffic goes up. Mm-hmm. I got no difference. I had a nationwide, I put on a GMB, I let it sit there for 3 months, no change. After the 3 months, I deleted it, looked for traffic change, no change. It was a no op. But that's one point of data. I wouldn't call it a compelling test.
Yeah. Well, that claim was made after one point of data too. So
one for one. We'll call it a tie. And by the way, the person that made that claim, I trust tremendously.
Oh yeah.
So it was really shocking to see that. I haven't seen it elsewhere, but I trust him a lot. This is a multi-part question, so I'll try to do as best I can with this. The first part of this question is, let's say you've got a competitive site, a competitive niche, and this is defined as the first 5 pages of SERPs are pretty much all commercial businesses kind of fitting the search intent. So a competitive type site. Do you think it's possible to rank purely with on-page and internal silo links? Do you think you could be competitive with just that?
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Do you think
my best example was Houston SEO? Theoretically, I'm competing against every other Houston SEO out there, right? And I did it with Quora and 4 silo pages. And we ranked number 4. I think it's 11 or 14 now because I don't build links to it. But yeah, we did it with just the internal links.
This person has said that their experience is probably getting to between page 2 and page 4 with only on page and maybe silos alone. I'd say that's pretty common.
Yeah. That's the average.
Yeah, I think if you're doing that right, I think that means you're doing your on page pretty well.
Yeah,
that's about where you will land, and maybe some other signals are needed. The only thing that they're mentioning in this specific example is that they have trouble finding backlinks for their top competitors, and they mainly just see citations from them. So they're wondering, if they feel that they're doing their on-page pretty well, and they can see the on-page of their competitors and it's about complementary, and they can only really see citation links coming in, do you think that there's some dirty pool going on when you see that?
There's link building everywhere. So, yeah. I mean, technically there's dirty pool all over the place.
Well, citations are links. So everyone talks about, oh, you don't need citations to rank. Well, citations are links. So if you need links to rank, then naturally citations would apply. So if that was the case, I would look at and see if they're actually taking the time to boost their citations and increase the power of those. Mm-hmm. More often than not, the white hat crowd's got everyone scared of PBNs and all that stuff. So I think overall, you're probably not competing with PBN users. I would look at see if they're boosting and pushing power and trying to rank their Yelps or whatever. Which
very interesting.
Will pass through to your site. So
something else that I like to do in these situations, I like to see which citations those competitors are sharing. I know SEO Profiler is a pretty easy way to do it, but I think you can do link comparison across competitors in pretty much every major link building tool.
Yeah,
see the ones they all have. They'll all probably share 5, 10, 20, depending on the niche, go get those first. Just literally just go get those. And then Clint, I like your idea a lot of seeing if those are being boosted.
And look at different tools too, because Majestic, Ahrefs will each show you something different, and then you bust open something like SEO Spyglass, and you'll see all different complete set of links. So don't rely just on one source when you're doing that.
That's true.
That'll help you get the best.
That's a good point too. This person might be using just Ahrefs, and I don't see any links.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind that Google knows about 200 trillion URLs, and these third-party tools have databases of billions of URLs, so they're teeny tiny samples. Yeah. But hopefully they're statistically significant, but we honestly probably don't know.
Very good point. There's a lot to learn in SEO, and it can become overwhelming. If a person had an idea for a product or service but were brand new to internet marketing, what would you advise them to do first?
Test. If you can get reproducible results, it doesn't matter that you know every fact or figure about SEO. If you can reliably get a good result to happen, you have the basis for a business.
Yeah, I would say build a website first that you don't necessarily love. It's not that product or service that you're sold on. Do something else and burn it to the ground. Don't worry about failure on that site. Do what you think is the right thing to do, and then you're going to learn so much that when you get to your passion, when you get to that product that you actually really like or that service you really like, you will do it so much better, so much faster. You'll be more efficient. You'll have a better idea of what works and what doesn't. And this also gives you the opportunity to try out what other people teach on a site that you don't care as much about. So get a couple different courses of people that are, known to be trustworthy, or you feel good about it when you see their sales page, and then try it out, and you can see if it works or if it doesn't work. And then, you essentially not ruin a site, but you learn on a site, and it's not your best site, and then you can take that knowledge and apply it to the site that you really care about.
And document your processes.
Yes.
That way you can tune the business as if it were a hypothetical engine of a car. You want to tweak it from the outside.
Yeah.
But you need to document.
Yeah, and you could do a similar product. You could, Amazon sell a competitor's product and then make a little money off of them while you learn.
I think I would start with validating whether my idea is going to make money or not, whether people want it. So, single page website and some PPC will tell you that right off the bat. Is there really an audience for this?
That's a perfect point.
Yeah, I don't know how much money I've wasted just coming up with ideas and thinking I'm the smartest dude ever, but no one wants it.
Saying everyone will love this.
Yeah. And if you do a Google search and there's no competition, that means there's probably no money there.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is that you might be in a situation where it could be good, but you have to educate a market.
Yeah.
That's difficult to do,
especially
in SEO. Yeah.
And I like thinking small. I think too many people are out there going, this is $100 million idea that's going to reinvent how businesses do business. And that usually tells me this thing is never going to make money. But if you have a $250 problem that people would love to spend $250 to solve, that's my kind of problem, because that's something you're going to have an easy time selling.
Yeah. Plus, don't fall for that line. If it's your passion, go ahead and do it, because some people might not like your passion, and you won't make a dime off of your passion. So, yeah, it sounds all fun and great, but it's not the way that is in the real world. So,
all right, this person is looking for an in-depth explanation of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. They want an easy concept, not vague answers, Clint, like the ones you normally give. They want to explain implementation. The thing that's funny is I don't think that this is all that tricky, right? I mean, you've got your website, and then the very next site linking to you is your tier 1.
Yeah.
And if a site links to them, that's tier 2. And if a site links to them, that is tier 3. And you may have caught on because you know numbers what tier 4 might be.
Yeah, the thing to keep in mind is this is how you protect yourself and you clean up your messes. So you don't use XRumor on your online store because you will never clean up 500,000 links to your online store afterwards. So if you created a Web 2.0 that you control and you did XRumor to the Web 2.0, if Google ever punished you for that, well, you could take down the Web 2.0 so it doesn't point to your store anymore. You have an easy way to clean up your mess. And so you use those tiers as a layer of SEO hygiene so that you can always clean up your messes if you need to.
And you need to come up with your own pattern, your own linking thing. Like I could teach you how to do tiered link building with the tools that I use, but then I would switch immediately the way that I do it because it is what it is. You know, this will be, this course will be sold in I Am Glory. Like I already saw Kyle's course. It's already being shared. So, if you really want to do it, just learn what a link pyramid is, which is essentially the tier link building, and then make your own model after you test it. Don't wait for someone to hold your hand and teach you that specific thing. Like there's plenty of tools out there that you can do it and you can leverage, and there's plenty of different ideas and ways to do it. But yeah, and I know it's great to have someone say, here's how you do it, and this works, and this is the greatest thing ever, and you're going to make money, but 9 times out of 10, you're just going to walk away disappointed.
One other thing I would note that maybe is confusing with these things is that there are things that are typically used for tier 1s and tier 2s, but you could have a WordPress.com as your tier 1, a WordPress.com as your tier 2, and a WordPress.com as your tier 3, because it's simply how they link together. So it doesn't, one property is typically like, you know, your high value Web 2.0s are typically your tier 1s, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be. It's just simply the link pattern that's created, the link chain that's created between them is what designates something as a tier. It's how close it is linked to your website.
Mm-hmm.
Ted, have you ever tested standard deviation with ranking factors?
We look at it all the time. I'm trying to think about how you test it. What we tend to see when we test in our most current standards is we'll run the same set of test cases on like 10 different websites in parallel, and there'll be variance in the outcome of the testing. And so we look at the average ranking of each test case across all 10 websites, and we'll get a standard deviation. What we like to see is when the standard deviation for the test cases starts small and gets incrementally bigger as you go down. When the standard deviation is large and kind of even across all the test cases, then we start to go, oh, well, this is kind of weird. It looks like we got random numbers all 10 times. So we like to see a pattern. We like to see the variance start off low and, you know, get bigger as it goes. And we have this observation that we tend to see the most variance in what we call the volatile middle, which kind of appears where Google does its A/B testing of pages. So for example, you have a keyword like Google, you could search for Google in Google, and Google will show you about 600 total results, but there's millions of pages that mention Google. So Google needs to test which of that content is best, and we believe Google does that in what we see as the volatile middle. And then the best performing content doesn't have to timeshare and works its way up the top.
By the way, in case somebody doesn't know what standard deviation is, or that concept of beyond you, the difference between the two numbers is the variance. You know, so when you've got a set of numbers, the difference between them is a variance, and then standard deviation is a math way to do it. So you always end up with a positive number, so you can't end up with negatives.
How do you decide which one you want to use in Core? Which my guess is probably where that question came out of.
Because the Core has different deficit models, right?
Yeah, 1.5 max deviation. There's a couple other ones. Like I use 1.5, but how you guys decide which one you want to use?
Well, I think you would want to use the standard deviation deficit strategies if you believe in over optimization. If you think there's a point where you get too far and it starts to hurt you, then you would want to use those models. And so when I built Cora, I didn't want to put my own beliefs. I know I have my own beliefs in about over optimization, but if you believe in over optimization, then you probably care more about that. And so those would be, how far outside the average do you want to allow before you think it's over optimized?
So max deviation setting is balls out versus 1.5, which is conservative.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I believe Kyle in the past has found some evidence that around 2 standard deviations beyond the page 1 average, there, for some factors, not all factors, there's something that appears to be a negative outcome.
That's a correct statement. I like Clint's number at 1.5 because that keeps you within any possible danger. Like if you want to go a conservative route, which you can always add more. You know, it's like adding sugar to your coffee. It's really easy to add more. It's difficult to take it away. So I like starting more conservative and doing something like that with 1.5. Here's the last question, unless something's come up on the live. But when creating test sites, do you try to hide from Google, like using a separate Gmail, even for different test sites, fake names? Do you even use Google Analytics? Do you use a VPN? Use proxy? I'm probably too paranoid. Is this Google form even safe to use? Just kidding, but not kidding. I don't recall this mentioning before.
That's good. I like that.
I don't. I've for a long time I've had very good results. Just using the same hosting for my tests. I use different domain names to split up the test sites. I could be more strict about that, but I haven't found a need to yet. And discovering that there's a need to would be an amazing discovery.
Yeah.
So that is something that, I think I'm testing by not doing it, by putting them on the same IP address, same host, and getting decent test results where I should, and not getting decent test results where I should. Kind of validates that Google isn't targeting the world that way.
I would agree with that. The only thing that I do now, as opposed from before, is I don't buy domains under my own name anymore. I don't use fake names. I know real people in life. So that's the only thing that I've changed in my process. But I like Google Analytics because I want to see that data. I like Search Console because I want to see that data. And, in order to take the test stuff that you're doing and put it into real life, you need to see how it will react within those things so that you can understand when you see certain data points, what that actually means and what's going on with that. So if you don't have those things on your test sites, then the data won't be as useful when you put them into real life. So anything that what I try to emulate the most is like, this is a real site, except that we're putting it in within these conditions so that we can see if this one thing does something or not. But otherwise, I try to make them as real as possible, and I don't sweat all those other things.
But if you find Google's punishing a behavior like that, let us know, because
Please.
That's research we want to know about.
Please, yeah, for sure. So that concludes the list that was submitted. I don't know if any new questions have come up. We do have a few minutes left if we want to tackle some of those.
Yeah, we got some from the chat. One is time the first byte really a ranking factor? There's a couple people who want to know that.
Personally, I think that's where the ranking factor is. It's certainly not page load time. Page load time, taking pages into the 20s, and you can't get them to drop. If you can get a page to drop and it doesn't, please let me know. I'd like to see that. But Google did announce that the page speed is a ranking factor, and they let the SEO world let their imagination run wild as to what that actually means. For me, the thing that you can look at most consistently is TTFB. I like Ted's philosophy on what would cost the least amount to check, and I think that's it, and I think that's where it's at.
I think it's a half truth. I think it is a ranking filter. And the reason I believe that is if you go on a ferry boat and check your search rankings, like I did, I was amazed. I was like, oh my God, this is the best day ever. I would get into the office, recheck my rankings, and get all sad again. Because what was happening is on that very slow internet connection, all the high page weight, slow websites were filtered out. And when I got back in the office on broadband, they were all right back where they were. So when you have a slow, heavy web page, it's not that your rankings necessarily get shifted down, but you appear in fewer searches. So you lose organic traffic. So it's a ranking filter more than a ranking factor.
The person who asked us also cited that web page test time to first byte score was a F, but the page was number 1. And for me, I use webpagetest.org exclusively. I don't use PageSpeed Insights, GTmetrix, and the rest of them. I think they're junk, they're garbage. But if you're seeing that, what you really need to look at is your settings and make sure that you're pulling from the right servers, the right testing servers. So if you got a UK site, but you're testing from Dallas, then you're doing it wrong. You need to look to test from where your target audience is.
The thing too is I think you get an F at 1 second, give or take, right? So, and I think that's about where you want to be. Probably 1-ish, probably like 1.2-ish and below. Then you're probably it's not like probably one of those factors that will like there's a score. It's probably like a plus or a minus.
Yeah,
you know,
I look for 1. If it's a 1 point or higher, I look for issues that are causing TTF. And if it's a WordPress site, which is what we do exclusively, it's a plugin that's causing that. So
yeah, I would think I always tell people a safe number is 0.5 on that. And usually if you've got reasonably modern hosting, that takes care of that for
you. This is from Lucas Duxbury. What's the best SOP for moving a blog section of a business site to a separate domain? A business had all its business pages fighting with the blog posts, so we're moving the blog.
I like that idea. It's really tragic when you get into that problem where you're stealing your rankings from your store. I think long term, it's the right thing to do to break it out. That way, both can independently rank for the same keywords. So I applaud the direction setting. It's going to be kind of painful for a little while you move the content and take some traffic losses overall. So it's going to be growing pain ultimately.
Yeah, I think you'd have to balance. To me, I wouldn't do it. I would just re-optimize the blog pages and use those as silo pages for the money page, which tells if they're ranking and the money page is not, it just tells me the silos were built wrong. I can see Ted's argument where you're having multiple SERPs taken over using the blog in the main domain. But I've also done audits and had to do fixed repairs where SEOs went in there willy-nilly and just changed it. And then the client's like, where the hell did my traffic go? And they lost the traffic in the blog and the subdomain because the redirects didn't kick in as powerful as they thought because you're starting a brand new website when you're doing the subdomain. So
probably the safest thing to do is put all new blog posts in a new blog.
Yeah.
Leave the past as the past, at least until you've got a lot of traffic coming from a new blog first, so it doesn't cost you the business. Yeah. So start a blog, put all new posts on that blog, and then once that blog has critical mass of traffic, then you can filter out the old content, in a year or two.
Yeah, but if you're going to do it to a client, make sure that they know that they're going to lose traffic if they've got traffic.
Yeah. So I'd just do a new blog and let the past be the past until it dies a natural death.
Even if it's crap traffic, you're like, oh, we're only getting 1 click here, 1 click there. If you remove that whole section, that turns into thousands of clicks in a hurry. And you're just going to see this. And it's going to panic the F out of everybody over at that marketing department.
Yep.
It pays.
All they're going to see is this and blame you.
Yeah.
What happened?
It pays to do it right the first time.
Yep. Question from Connor. Certain countries where top 3 is usually a domain specific for that country. Would you suspect or suggest Geo Specific Links if you're trying to focus on that area. It's kind of a mixed question.
I'm sorry, I missed the. What are we trying to do?
Certain countries where the top 3 is usually a domain of the specific country, i.e. .co.au. Assuming on pages to Decora and all that, would Geo Specific Links be your next area of focus?
I don't know that geo specific links are necessarily more or less relevant than a .com. I played around a couple years ago with links from Denmark. So kind of sending links from Denmark to US sites, and they move the needle just as well as anything else. So I don't know if there's anything to needing country specific or really local specific links for the purpose of creating that local relevancy. But I'm open to other opinions.
Yeah, for example, you might operate a tour company in a specific country, but you might be interested in reviews from all around the world.
Yeah.
So, and those reviews might be perfectly relevant for your geo-specific business, but those backlinks don't necessarily need to be geo-specific. So it may depend on the industry too as to what's required. There's probably not a ton of research there.
It always goes back to what your competitors are doing. See what Google's rewarding. If you see like, oh my God, they're all getting, .co whatever .links, okay, then I would focus on those. If they've got a pretty good mix, then don't worry about it.
When creating a silo, should we remove the main navigation from the related nodes and only have links to the central focus page?
For me personally, I stopped caring about that. I create virtual silos and I'm doing links within the body for that purpose. And so I don't worry about anything else. To me, it's not worth the time to worry about that. And so just put them in as you should for creating your virtual silos and then just let your site be your site.
Yeah, and usually your main navigation is critical for human beings. It's part of your conversion funnel, and so I'd be reluctant to muck with a conversion funnel that works.
Yeah, I don't worry about it either. I've tested or I've used in real world, the minimalistic menus, and I've used ones that are built out all the hell, and I don't really see a difference. So let's see. Will do follow links actually reduce the originating page's rankability power, or is it just split the vote power that would otherwise go unspent?
So they're saying from the page that they're sending an outbound link from?
Well, yeah, they're saying if you put a do follow link on your content, you inherently make your page weaker because you're sharing link juice.
That's what Google claims. It's really hard to prove. So, that is something that would require a Picasso of a test to figure out.
What I did on we've seen this a couple times in some tests where you've got, say, all your tests have like 1 or 2 outbound links, and you've got one bad boy with like 20. That guy will drop to the bottom. So you can see it in some extreme cases. So what I would just do is, this is a crazy thought. Just do the outbound links that make sense to do. Like if it makes sense to have an outbound link in a certain spot, then do it. And otherwise, don't worry about it. And don't try to intentionally fit something in that don't shoehorn it in. So just with my outbound links, I just make sure I'm doing something that makes sense to do. If it's a spot where you need some relevancy or you want to cite something, then cite it. But I would just keep it to what seems pretty normal. I wouldn't do 20.
How does that relate to like a site like Wikipedia, where those pages have 500? They can have up to 500 outbound links on them.
I think you could point to the size of that site. When you've got a site that's got 1 trillion pages, one individual page should have, that many outbound links, because most of those are internal. Mm-hmm. They're all internal, aren't they? Do they ever? Oh no, they have the reference section at the bottom.
Yeah, the reference section's all out there.
But that makes sense to me. It makes sense because it's a site that large.
Interesting. Yeah, I just don't go nuts on the outbound.
Yeah,
just don't go nuts. Let's see. As Kyle is doing a lawyer-focused website for lead gen, what precautions or practices should be taken for creating initial content?
Well, there are specific things that lawyers can and can't say on websites, so you got to be in compliance with those regulations.
It's a funny thing, like some states will allow you to have pictures of people that aren't lawyers, and some states will not. So you could, like, some states allow you to have, like, I'm Joe the lawyer, and it's just some good-looking actor from a stock photo, but other states won't allow that at all.
Well,
So
you can't claim to be a lawyer if you're not in most states.
there is that. So you want to be very considerate. But I think, was this question about lorem ipsum though? I think I saw.
No, I think it's more if I set up a generic website that doesn't represent any specific firm, like I want to do a personal injury lead capture type of system, what cannot say or do. So it sounds to me like if I'm not representing a firm or a specific lawyer, I'm pretty much free to go out as long as I'm not saying that I am the lawyer.
Yeah, and I think you could just rank for that particular term and then fill in the lawyer-specific content later. I think you could do a rhinoplasty type page where you have lorem ipsum even, and you just got the ranking terms in on the page, and then you're going to fill in with real content later. I'm pretty sure that would work.
Yeah, have a local lawyer look at what you're doing, because saying things like, if you want to win your next case, those are things that some places you can't say.
Yeah. Have you guys ever had where a client yells at you for content that you've used and that you can't be said, and you say, "I got this from your own site"? I've had this on more than one occasion. Like, well, where'd you get this? We can't say that. And I'm like, this is your website.
Yeah, it happens with medical products and health products.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
It also happens with charities. The state of Florida in particular will go after you if you say things incorrectly about causes and donations.
Let's see. Last question. There's a bunch more, but we're running at the hour. So this will be Leon's question. Let's see. Oh, I lost it. There it is. Do any of you consider or are currently using stacking with either Google properties or S3 as part of your linking strategies?
Yeah, we stack. But kind of getting back to that tier question, I almost look at my silo post as my tier 1, because I'm going to link into that first before I link into my money site or my money page or my target page or whatever you want to call it.
I like to refer to those as kill pages, because if I do screw something up, I can just kill that page for it and good to go. Yeah.
And also, though, when I think about my link building strategy, it's usually based on a piece of content. And it's going to be a piece of content that I'm going to put into my silo. So whatever you like to do for link building, whatever you like to do to attract links, that's what I'm going to send links to. And depending on the situation, a stack might be very appropriate.
And I love S3 for a lot of different reasons, but I'm not going to tell you why.
There's a lot going on there. There was one quick question about, was the rhinoplasty plan at 90%? Yeah, it was 90%, but don't worry. That when you're using pop and the percentage, that's just a guideline. If you watch a recent video I just did, I showed getting to page 1 with a site that in pop had it at 66%. So don't get hung up on those percentages. Get hung up on your ranking. Get hung up on movement first. Use that as a guide. Am I within the realm of what my competitors are doing? But otherwise, don't focus too much on that.
Mm-hmm. Here's another good one. This one kind of pops up back and forth. There's no refer, no opener matter if it's do follow.
I don't know.
A lot of that, the no refer and no opener, that really messes you up if you're trying to leverage. I think Twitter had it on there for a while and some of the other social sites, and basically it stripped, like if you're using it for affiliate stuff, it stripped that affiliate reference. So that you could be sending traffic all day long to an offer and not get any sales because that was being stripped out. I've never tested it if it was a do follow issue or not. That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't fully understand that question. Can you explain it a little?
I'll hit the no refer because that's the big one. So basically, if you set that up and you put that on your link on your website, when the person clicks it, it doesn't tell the new website, in particular analytics, where that traffic came from. So if you set no refer, it essentially, like, if it strips everything and just says, hey, this is a direct hit on the page, as I explained, was explained to me. That hasn't even been an issue. Hell, I think that's been like 2 years before, since that was being used on social media sites, which was a big deal.
So that's between websites. Keep in mind that Google still knows the truth because of the safe browsing API. They still know it was you from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't view that as being anonymous from Google. It might make you anonymous from that target website.
Yeah. Black Hat forums use blank refer a lot when they're sending you off page, so that people don't know like who's sharing or whatever. So it works to block that, to know that it's not coming from there. It just shows up as direct traffic.
Yeah, to that landing page.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, Google still sees the truth.
Yeah, that's it. 12:05, hour and 5 minutes.
Not bad. Not bad.
Well, thank you, everyone. Before we go, Clint, we forgot to ask, what can people expect on SEO this week?
Oh, we just went over a lot of Google announcements this week. Just some updates, and talked a little bit about rock stars. That's how we closed it out. But like multiple H1s and those kind of things that John Mueller was talking about in the last 2 weeks. Not really a whole lot of in-depth content though, coming from SEO bloggers. Two highlights for me was the e-com conversion stuff that I got Ted to talk about a lot since he's done that, and then a link building post that was pretty good.
Very cool.
Oh, did I mention the on-page course? Maybe not.
Tell us.
You have an on-page course?
I do. I'm such a hack. Next Wednesday, we're going to open up for 24 hours the pre-launch price because we're gearing up for the real launch now, and a lot of people have been pinging that they missed that opportunity on the 72-hour pre-launch. So we're going to open up for 24 hours. It'll be next Wednesday. We'll do an announcement on Fight Club, but I want to let people know now, just in case, so they can be ready for that. Because I know some people watch these things on delay.
Yep. So we'll have a slide and an announcement on next week's show. So keep an eye out for that. Save a little bit of your budget if you might be interested. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.
All right. Take care.
Bye, everyone.